we're going to have a little Q&A session. You can type your questions in the Q&A box on that Zoom screen, and you'll be getting your answers live. Moderating the session, the Q&A segment, is Tanu Chellam, who's co-founder of Safeguard Scholar. That's a cybersecurity training software company. Tanu is a social impact-oriented Singaporean entrepreneur who's won awards for managing both people and products. With a customer-first design philosophy and a technical background, she's held managerial and leadership roles in Singapore and in the US, and is now running a technology management consultancy from the UK called Rosetta Digital. So I'll hand it over to you, Tanu.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So glad to be here and moderating the panel. I have such a lovely cast of speakers with me. Just to quickly recap what everybody talked about, Nigel talked about the kampong spirit that he's reviving with GoodHood. Jordan talked about how Indeed is helping people get jobs and transition their careers through innovative means. And Xiaole really started us off with a comprehensive view of Grab's creative changes in the delivery space and using machine learning to do that. So we already have a number of questions from you guys. I think because we just started with Xiaole, we'll start with a question for her as well. Ying Chen from Singapore is asking, you are a rare woman tech leader in Singapore. Most of the tech leaders are male. What is it like being in a male-dominated field, and how do you, do you have any advice for women who want to break into product and engineering leadership? Love to hear from you, Xiaole.
I guess I will be denied if I say I did not see this coming. Okay, let me see how I'm going to put this. To be 100% transparent with you guys, personally, I really feel the differences, like for myself, especially during my past 5 years in Grab. I guess one of the reasons is because one of our co-founders, Hui Ling, actually is also a female, and she now is my boss's boss. So it sort of creates a certain security for me. Then in terms of the advice, I can talk about a few things, which is not 100% related to male versus female, but I think it's actually generic. So for me, I think a very useful lesson I have learned during my Grab experiences is try not put any tags on yourself. So I actually got different feedbacks from either my team, my engineers, or from my peers, or from my colleagues. So I think just 2 weeks ago, when I was trying to discuss technique design with my engineer team, actually skip level. So I was sit down and listen to his proposals, and I was giving him feedback. Then out of nowhere, he was saying to me like, Xiaole, it's actually very real that as a head of engineer, you are still spend time to discuss technical details and design with us. So at that time, it was sort of hit me like, it's not only about female. People got all those stereotypes about if you're head of engineer, what things you should do. And if you are female, what things you should do. So I keep thinking about this, like in every company, we're saying you are a junior engineer, you are a senior engineer, and now you become an engineer manager, then you become the head of engineer. What are those titles mean? So the moment you think about these titles, you think about, okay, I'm the head of engineer. Then you think about, okay, I'm trying to draw a box. Then this is within this job box is my job scope. Outside of it is sort of none of my business. So I think the same principle actually adopted to the concept of female and male as well. So you consider like female is just too real for tech lead. So you feel like maybe as a female is just not a suitable job for me. So my advice for whoever asks questions and all the females in this call, try not put any tags in yourself. I actually learned this lesson from Grab. I think the first year I joined, there was one product manager. He approached me and trying to tell me how I can design my architecture, my engineer architecture. So I was so pissed off, like, you are a PM, why are you telling me this? That as time goes, I realized like in Grab, there's no such box for your job scope. So always think about actually is how we can serve our customer better and how we can get things done. So regardless, you are female, product, or you're a female engineer, or you're a female head of engineer, if you see problems and you have your opinions, just step up and fight for it. So
thank you, Xiaole. Jordan, I think you had something to add.
I would just say, find a company where there are going to be patrons and advocates for you that are going to support you. What people who are underrepresented need are patrons, and they need advocates. And there are companies that have that embedded in the culture. I think Xiaole has that in terms of her boss's boss. It's the person who's going to be a patron for her, who's going to be an advocate for her. But, sometimes that's built into the DNA of a company, sometimes it's not. So look for companies that have that built in the DNA. It's something I invest a lot of time in at Indeed, and we at Indeed invest a lot of time in. We've actually, in the last few months, we've hired 3 female engineering VPs, and I've been overseeing the hiring of 2 women engineering directors just in the last 6 months. So something significant.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm a woman in tech myself, and so both of what you guys said really resonated with me. I think, although I'm moderating, I'd like to add just one other piece of advice, sort of piggybacking on what Xiaole said. I think that sometimes you just have to go for it, and sometimes you might get some pushback from that, but it will change the way that you approach it the next time. And so just keep trying. Here's another question for Nigel. So Sam Chen in Singapore asks, GoodHood seems to be built based on the Singapore kampong spirit. Is your vision to bring the community overseas at all? And would you localize it for different cultures?
I think, thanks, Sam. Thanks, Tanu. A very, very good question. So right when we started, we actually were just thinking, hey, what can we do in the Singapore context, right? And that still is kind of the priority for me, that we really want to be able to bring Singaporeans closer together first. If we can't even do that well, then I think there's no real, we don't really want to think about going overseas yet. But that said, from the investors' perspective, some may say, hey, why don't you move to Taiwan and Malaysia first? Because those would have very, very similar cultures to Singapore. Right, and in terms of expansion, there's a few, yeah. So I think that there are a few different. It's also probably very. I haven't done so honestly. I haven't done much homework and research in terms of which countries should we go yet, because our main focus is really strengthening communities in Singapore, right? So yeah. So not probably not the best answer you are looking for. But if we do expand overseas, I think it will heavily depend on partners and finding missionaries, like-minded missionaries who really care deeply about their communities. And I think localization will be very, I do think it will be quite intensive and challenging. So yeah, so that's yeah, so that's a reality. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think that people are curious because, I mean, GoodHood seems like a really good app for Singapore, so why can't we share it with other people, right? Jordan, Ida in Singapore is asking, I've always been a fan of Indeed.com ease of use, love it. Impressed with the company model and culture as well. Great presentation, keen to hear more about measuring success examples. Do you have a use case to share?
Sure, yeah. So the ultimate measure of success at Indeed is what we call the positive outcome. Someone got a job, an employer found someone to fill their role. That's the ultimate measure of success. Now, as we think about it, there's some issues that get away from us being able to measure that. We'd like to be able to measure that. We want to get close to that. So we have to settle for some proxies. On the Indeed platform, about 60% of our jobs are actually what we call aggregated. Basically, we're a search engine. So we're going out and we're getting careers.whatevercompany.com, and we're bringing that in. And then we have what are the jobs that are hosted on the platform. That's about 40%. Those we can follow through. But then there's a whole bunch of things that happen in the funnel that break that down. So we look at things, some of the things we look at, obviously there's the click. Did someone click on a job? You know, that gives us a sense of how the quality of it. Did they start to apply for it? Depending on where they're applying, did they finish applying? And then finally down there to the positive outcome. We want to move closer and closer to the apply. You know, circa 2004 to 2013, it was all just about clicks. You know, people clicking on it, kind of Google AdWords for jobs. Starting in 2013, we started doing Indeed Apply, which got us closer to that hire. Now with interviewing, we're getting even closer to it. So like, does an interview get scheduled? That tells us we're one step closer to the hire. What was the quality? If you notice that form that I showed in my slides, it asked, how did the interview go? What was your thoughts about the interview? Indeed is about we are data-driven to a fault. I, as an engineer, just an engineer at the line, not my level in the company, has access to data in Indeed that would make me an insider at any other company in the world. Because we believe that that data is key to us making good, informed decisions. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. I mean, it was asking about your measures of success, and I think you nailed it. It sounds like you have some great KPIs to measure a whole bunch of things. Another question for Xiaole, for Megan in Singapore. What percentage of Grab's problem statements involve solving them using technology versus doing things differently? Can you share an example of a problem statement where Grab solved a problem by improving process, doing things differently, or thinking out of the box where minimal technology is used?
Interesting. So the question actually is looking for example which we use less technology.
Yeah.
Okay. So actually in Grab, we never measure a success of a product in terms of how much technology we used in that. So we're always like customer centered. We observe the problem from the ground. So we're trying to solve the problem. So every project we've done, actually, we are considering two bottom lines. The first one is the social impact dimension, and the second one is our revenue. So we're always trying to do both for every project. So the moment you actually have that mindset for every project, then we actually believe in great technology is to solving the purpose. And our purpose is actually leveraging the technology to empower people's life. So in terms of an example, actually I have a very good one for the COVID we did. I'm not sure everyone noticed this. Actually for COVID, Grab app developed this thing we call contactless delivery. So it's a very subtle thing. So basically every time you're trying to make an order through Grab app, we're going to pop up some message box, give you some detailed instructions. And at the same time, the system is going to automatically send messages over driver and merchant side, remind them, hey, actually you can use contactless delivery. So this is something we did, I think for COVID specifically. And I think the initial MVP version we launched within 1 week. So there's no fancy technology at all. So what we did is we actually, the requirement actually comes in very urgently. So we adopted this lockdown in Singapore. Then we think about, oh, we need to do something to help the society. Then we start, the first thing we actually think of is, okay, what is the existing technologies or existing technology flows we have in the system? So first thing is every time you go to the checkout page, actually we have a built-in mechanism from the backend. We can actually push some message to your packs. So originally this flow was designed for the purpose that we want to push some promotions. So basically we want to tell you that, okay, you check out, you can use this promo code, or you can actually using some subscription plan. So we change the content to become, okay, instead of push out promo informations, we want to push out instructions to remind you are making an order. Let's use contactless delivery. Let's using cashless payments. Then we have another flow in the system, which we actually the system could send automatic messages to drivers and merchants during the order life flow. So we again customize the messages we send during different order lifecycle events trigger. So all we did is we connected all those existing flows together, then bam, it becomes a new business use case, and it actually benefit our customers. So I personally like that project a lot.
Yeah, it sounds very meaningful and keeps all the customers safer too, because you don't have to spread COVID so easily. Nigel got a very interesting question for you. Sarah from Singapore wants to know if you're open to sharing, what is the most interesting incident that GoodHood has helped with? I know earlier when we were talking, you had so many stories for us, so it must be hard to pick one.
So yeah, maybe I'll summarize. So one of them is actually we had a case because we allow anonymous posting of requests. There was this this new mother who actually requested for help. She said, "I'm suffering from depression. Can anyone help? I'm looking for child minding help." Right. So I asked around, and someone, a social worker, the social worker friend said, "Hey, why don't you apply for some of those preschool or caregiving organizations, and can also get government grants." So when I told the mother that, she said, "Yeah, but I only just need it for 2 to 3 weeks. And I don't want to tell my husband because I don't want to trouble him." Right. So having the anonymous request feature really works around the stigma in Singapore of asking for help, right? And there will be certain cases where other people feel paiseh to ask for help. So that's one of the cases. Of course, we've seen our fair share of abuses because we have a very, very kind community. So there was a case where somebody came in, asked for help, straight away got like 20, 30 replies. 2 days later, asked for help again, gave another interesting story, soft story, got a lot of replies, asked again. Then next thing you know, she got her husband in the tech team and asked for help. And then so then after that, we implemented a bit, we tweaked the product and design a little bit more to showcase more the trail of requests and also prevent people from deleting requests. So you can actually see how many times a person asks. Yeah. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, no problem. So I think I'll ask a general question for everybody. Since we're in a global pandemic, we have an opportunity to rethink our world. What positive change would you want to see in a post-pandemic Singapore? And this can be for all three of you.
I guess I go first.
Sure, go for it.
I actually I'm optimistic about next year, and I actually think this is the term which we call new normal. Like we recovered from 2020 a little bit, but we're not recovered from the previous user behaviors anymore. So I think for Grab, this is actually a very exciting opportunities for us. We want to observe the problems different customers actually facing on the ground. For example, you might not only want to order food from online, you want to order some groceries from online as well. And even though you might still go back to the restaurant and have food at table and have a dining experiences, but maybe at this time, in the new normal situation, you're going to focusing on more hygiene and contactless payment now. So I think this 2020 has changed everyone's lifestyle from fundamentally, and this creates both challenges and opportunities for us. And I'm quite excited in terms of how we can empower technology to help people from that dimension.
For me, I'm hoping that people will understand. I think a lot of people are having it writ large to them that often success and failure are out of people's control. And I think I'm hoping that this will bring about a higher tolerance for failure. And that the question won't be, why did you fail? But what did you learn from that experience? What lessons did you draw from it? Because really the thing that is going to get us out of this is speed of learning. How fast do we learn and incorporate those learnings into change behaviors? And that means a higher tolerance to failure. And this actually came up in the session right before us, which is how, by its nature, iterative development assumes there's going to be a lot of failures along the way. So how do we, and I'm hoping a higher tolerance of failure. That's really what I'm hoping, because people will have a greater empathy because they know that's quite often it's not in our control.
Yeah, thank you. We are out of time, everybody. And I know there's more questions, and I think I might speak for all the panelists if I say we'd love to answer them and talk more. So join us instead on the virtual lounge, which is the Slack channel, and we can continue the conversation there. And thanks everybody for tuning in. So great to join you with these wonderful humans.
Can we get those questions actually into the lounge? Like one message per, and then we can thread off of them?
I think so. We can work it out.
That would be awesome. Great.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Tanu to organize this.
Oh, no problem.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Tanu.
Thank you so much for that heartwarming, optimistic session. Well, and also thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. Tanu, you did a great job in moderating this session. Kudos, absolute kudos. Well, wish we had more time, but well, all good things have to unfortunately come to an end. And Timur, I'm curious, like you work in this space, Tech for Good, and there's been such a riot of ideas over the last 2 days. What struck you the most? Anything that really stood out for you?
Well, the whole thing, really, Neha. It's been a fascinating couple of sessions, haven't it? We've heard a really wide-ranging series of ideas around this topic, from really ambitious big picture plans to digitize the entire scope of government activities, and in doing so, delivering better governance for the good of all, to really software that goes right down to the very micro level, right down to local neighborhoods to improve human relations at the individual level. We've gone from tech that facilitates and makes safer the essential service of urban traveling to tech that helps to lessen one of the biggest stresses that we all have all the time, and that is finding a job. So a lot of really interesting ideas coming up. But the thing that I guess really gladdens me overall is that we're talking about these things at all. Maybe it was COVID that drove it. Maybe it's general environmental concerns. Maybe it's something else altogether. But more and more, we are giving more and deeper thought towards doing good, towards making an impact, towards working together. And I reckon that's a good thing, right?
Totally agree with you, man. Totally agree with you. You've just beautifully summed up the Singapore Tech Forum till now.